God called Jonah, the son of Amittai, to go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it because its wickedness had come up before him. However, Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh. Instead, he decided to flee from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, found a ship bound for Tarshish, paid the fare, and boarded it to flee from the Lord. As the ship sailed away, the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, causing a violent storm that threatened to break the ship apart. The sailors were terrified, and each cried out to his own God. They threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. Meanwhile, Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to Jonah and said, How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." The sailors cast lots to find out who was responsible for the calamity, and the lot fell on Jonah. They asked him who he was and what he had done. Jonah confessed that he was a Hebrew who worshipped the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land. He told them he was fleeing from the Lord. This terrified the sailors even more, and they asked him what they should do to calm the sea. Jonah told them to throw him into the sea and it would become calm. Reluctantly, the sailors did as Jonah said. They prayed to the Lord, asking not to be held accountable for killing an innocent man. And then they threw Jonah overboard. Immediately the sea grew calm. The sailors were awestruck by the Lord's power, offered a sacrifice to him, and made vows to him. The Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. He acknowledged his distress, cried out for help, and expressed his faith that he would be delivered. The Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time, instructing him to go to Nineveh and proclaim the message the Lord had given him. Jonah obeyed the Lord and went to Nineveh, a very large city. He proclaimed, 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. The Ninevites believed God. They declared a fast, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. When the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. He issued a proclamation, urging everyone to call urgently on God, give up their evil ways and violence, and perhaps God would relent and show compassion. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened. Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord, expressing his frustration that God had shown mercy to Nineveh. Jonah went out and sat down at a place east of the city, making a shelter and waiting to see what would happen to the city. The Lord provided a leafy plant to give Jonah shade and ease his discomfort, and Jonah was happy about the plant. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wished to die, saying, "It would be better for me to die than to live." God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" Jonah replied, "It is, and I'm so angry, I wish I were dead." The Lord said, "You have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. Should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals?" Thus, the story of Jonah concludes with God teaching Jonah a lesson about compassion and mercy.